CTO, Enterprise IT at Larsen & Toubro Infotech. Mr. Sridhar, CTO, Head Data Center at the 𝗕𝗲𝗏 Bank Limited. Mr. Vishal Pal Chaudhary, CTO at Reliance Retail. Mr. Pushkar Shirolkar, who is India Management Board, Global Head of Infrastructure and Information Security, Architecture and Governance at Alliance Technology. And Mr. Anil Nama, who is the CIO at Control-S and 𝗘𝗱𝗏 Services. This elite panel would be moderated by Mr. 𝗔𝗲 𝗦𝘁𝗂𝗏𝗆, who is the Group CTO at Embassy Group. Please welcome the panelists with a huge round of applause.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. In spite of being in Bangalore, I can still extend a warm welcome to all of you for this session and as well as event. I must tell you that it's not often you would find, a panel discussion bringing representation from varied industries like real estate to retail to e-commerce to banking to system integrators to the hyperscalers. It is one such discussion where you actually see all facets of it, right? So if I look at it, the emerging digital infrastructure ecosystem and predominantly more on the, more with the foundation of cloud is actually, it's trying to deliver faster and innovative, infrastructure solutions revolving around, let's say, digital technologies, abstracting the resources and so on and so forth. Invariably, data centers are becoming a global hub of sort, right, for the digital ecosystem. And how is it happening? It's because the algorithmic advances are actually working because of the advancement in the world of data centers and the cloud solutions, right? So invariably, everything is revolving around data center. And today, we have this, eclectic mix of panel members who I will try and spend some time and extract as much information as we can from their industries, from their experience perspective. I'll probably start with, let's say, I'll start with Vishal. Vishal, represents Reliance Retail. Reliance Retail, as you guys know, a behemoth conglomerate, fastest growing retailer in the world as of today, and no better than Vishal to share some insights from his perspective. So he actually wears a lot of hats. I was just chatting with him before this session, and he's been he's like literally an entrepreneur in spirit. So we'll talk about those aspects as well. Vishal, the question for you is how how do you actually use the elasticity of cloud?
Hey, thanks a lot, 𝗔𝗲. I think I'm honored to share the stage with such prominent people, and of course, as you said, it's a very, very good mix, and I would like to hear thoughts from others also.
Yeah.
It has been an evolving journey for us, to be very frank, and as you know that we talked about some old memories working on CLIs and scripts. I come from that era, right? So I have never seen a GUI to operate a data center in the first place, and now the world has moved on. We are like the obsolete people. So absolutely, I think the journey has been very, very exciting and very revolutionizing the industry in ways that we couldn't have ever thought, right? So if 15 years back you would have told me that, to launch a service I have to just click a button, I wouldn't have believed you. And it's true today, right? I can say, hey, I want to launch a WordPress blog of my own. You just go to any of the cloud providers, press a button, it's there, and you just log in and you start working there.
Sure.
And you don't have to worry about the underlying hardware, the disk space, the RAM, or the bandwidth, anything like that. And you worry about them when you are growing out, when you have become bigger, right? So I think that paradigm shift of thought process that now hardware is transparent. Like you don't even have to worry about data center or hosting your own Linux machine or the operating system on it, or downloading WordPress as a zip and then putting in a folder, having PHP, and all those days are gone, right? So I think what I'm trying to say is that the evolution has been so drastic that the newer generation don't even know what's going in the back end. And they should not know, basically, right? It's like
abstraction.
Yeah, it's abstraction, and it's for the good, because now they are focusing on the right areas, like solving the real problem, or like attacking a problem and putting deep engineering to solve those things. And that has been the evolution for Reliance also, or for the matter every company or every person here, right? So so for specifically the cloud areas, I can talk about is that it was not cloud earlier, right? Cloud just came in like maybe half a decade.
Yeah.
And we are still learning that, hey, what else can we do? Now we have got the taste of the blood that, hey, it can actually revolutionize and save a lot of time, money, effort from a lot of people. How can we exploit it more? And that's the discussion I was listening to today, that all the innovation happening on the energy side, on saving the cost side and making the environment better.
True.
So it's still a revolution. I would say that we are still between a revolution. We have not reached the pinnacle of all the things that we can do on data center side. So for us, it has been a very, very exciting journey so far.
Sure.
From physical data center, not having a software, putting from CLI to GUI, and now getting automated alerts on your phone. Just say, okay, I'm going to attend it, and have somebody look at it. It's a good place to be in.
Sure.
So I think that's where we are.
Awesome. I think we've got only 40 minutes, guys. So what we'll do is we'll spend some time with each individual and move on to the next one. And obviously, anyone can supplement the conversation. So coming back to you, Vishal, one more question before I let you go. I don't know how many of you know, but I just got to know that Vishal is the one behind the scene who's working for the aggregator platform for Reliance Retail. Now, it's madness. The surge which comes with the sale season. How do you work towards it? What goes behind the scene? Is there any method to this madness? Second question. What do you do for business continuity, your DR architecture, structure and all? What do you do? What's the thought process behind this to manage this madness?
So we are in between a war right now, to be very frank. So it's Diwali season. It's the season where the businesses make most amount of money, or like the most amount of sales, and you actually test the hardware, software, whatever engineering that you have done in the last 1 year. This is the test.
This is the season.
This is the stress test. This is the QA happening right in front, in reality, and you need to solve it, right? So, couple of things. You talked about the chaos. Is it more chaotic, or is it all sorted? It's always chaotic, because we are learning every day, right? So last Diwali, what we did, this Diwali, what we are doing is very different from last Diwali.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's very, very
Even
different.
in Reliance?
Even at Reliance, right?
Okay.
So you can understand that Reliance is a very progressive company. It means that whatever they put their hands in, they go very deep and they go very broad, right? So take an example of 4G, take an example of fiber. The way they have implemented, it's very different
Scale
than what we have
is,
seen.
yeah.
Not even scale, even user experience, right? So you try something before buying. That's what Reliance wants you, that, hey, test us out. If you find us worthy of making a payment, pay us. So I think that ethos flows till the last person in Reliance, and the way that we are, at least we plan way ahead of time, basically. So Diwali planning has been going on for maybe say 5 months now. So half year of planning
5 months
ends up in Diwali season, yes. So
wow.
you plan what kind of selection you want to bring to the customers, what kind of pricing that you want. You want to align all the manufacturers, the OEMs, in a way that you'll be able to provide the customer a great experience of owning a product at the time, right? So, and you can see that there are some popular products which are always available. Suppose iPhones are very popular, and iPhone 12 has been a very popular commodity right now because of the pricing that it is giving us. So you can imagine these price possession in Diwali time in Indian households are like very precious for everyone. And as people behind an engine which provides a great customer service to people, we have to plan way ahead of time. And even then we fail multiple times. We learn from our mistakes, make sure that mistake never happen again. So of course there's a method to the madness, but it's still madness.
It's still madness?
Yeah.
Okay.
So suppose Apple declared that, hey, we are going to launch Watch 8. Everybody wants to go to a platform to search about Watch 8 and look at it and experience it and play a video of it and have someone wear it and see how it feels, right? So I think you have to anticipate all this as a platform service provider, and it goes to the last mile of data center, because now your machines are hosted there.
Yeah.
And you are not just on a single data center, you are spread across the world. You are spread on the edge network, you are spread on different virtual servers, cloud servers, your own native servers, and everything. And it's just not one service, it's a behemoth of that 30,000 services. There is fulfillment, there is logistic. So you can imagine that you are actually integrated with 30 different companies to even think about it. So the scale and the complexity actually just algorithmically increases with every sale that happens on Reliance.
Sure. Interesting. What a perspective, guys. Okay, so moving on. Though I'm not a leftist, we started from a left side only. You know, if I would have started from Anil, then they would have said, you know, I'm rightist. So, but having said that, let's go, you know, in a chronological order. Moving on to you, Kunal. So, you know, I mean, I come from an era, I'm not that old though, but I come from an era where we used to sell cloud to our management, right? It is like, you know, you have to sell that, you know, your emails are going to be in cloud. You know, Kunal comes, you know, from a system integrator's perspective. So we used to sell and we used to tell that, okay, cloud gives agility, elasticity, flexibility, innovative abstraction, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. How are things from your perspective, Kunal? Is this pretty much there, or is the cloud first, has it sunk in the business now? What is your perspective now?
First, to make one thing very clear, if you're not that old enough, I'm younger than you. So clarifying one thing. In terms of going to leadership, explaining about use of cloud, it has kind of sunk in, and it was forced sunk into IT services, because if you don't do it yourself, nobody would buy the service from you. It's very practical. What happens for us, majority of decisions are other way around. There would be a leader who would end up deciding a partnership with the next service provider, and I would not go against that partnership, but sometime it gets very complicated for internal IT on 𝗕𝗲𝗍 consumption. We would end up committing that we would give you $2 million to Reliance Jio, example, but now you figure out what would you use it for.
Wow.
That is far more challenging than actually going and convincing a leader or board that we need to move a certain service on cloud. For at least LTI, it's not only cloud first. We took a decision almost 5 years back, cloud only. We literally moved everything up. I still have a data center space within the company which can host, if I remember correctly, at least 500 racks.
Wow.
In a couple of my data centers itself. Those racks are as empty as, please don't take me wrong, almirah of any woman. You have nothing to wear when you have to go out, but you have no space to keep everything in. So our racks are like that. I'm not saying it's legacy. There are equipments which are still running. There are some old services being consumed because you can't migrate them. Those are monolithic. And they need to be on. That's one thing. But now what we are realizing is a paradigm shift. We have moved everything up. It is becoming cost prohibitive.
Yeah, it is true. Before I let you, I've got 2 more questions for you. You know, you are a system integrator. You have to cater to your captive audience as well, and then you have an external audience as well. Do you sell differently?
So,
I mean, truth.
The truth is very simple. And I'll go back to 4.5 years back when I was interviewed in LTI.
I see.
And my interview was 3 minutes with the CIO and 4 minutes with the company COO. The question with CIO was, "तूने Amazon में ये सब कुछ किया है ना?" I said, "Yes." क्या क्या किया है? And it was done. And with the COO was, "What can internal IT bring to LTI?" The answer to that was, we would bring internal services to a level where you need not to sell anything. Bring your customer, show that this is how we run internal IT, and there would not be any question asked. And today I'm proud that whatever services our CIS team, which is our cloud and infrastructure services, which has to go and meet customer, they end up pulling in us for designing for customers.
Wow. That's a testimony of the commitment or delivery probably you guys have done over the last couple of years.
So हमने घर के सारे बल्ब अभी बदल दिए, कुछ बचा नहीं.
Okay, last one for you. Is there any utopia of sort to achieve a modern, agile, data center? Is that something which is there? Does it exist in your system? Do you think that this is the ideal mix and no looking back?
I spoke about it in my presentation also. There is nothing called ideal in the world. Whatever is good today would be legacy tomorrow, and whatever is legacy for yesterday may come back and haunt us to become a better thing for tomorrow.
True, true. Okay, perfect. All right, I will slightly move towards the right side, so I'm becoming a little rightist during the course of this conversation. So I'll move to Pranav now. Sorry, Pushkar. So Pushkar represents this company, Alliance Technology, who's predominantly into insurance and asset management. So, and then sizable number of clients across the globe, right? So I just wanted to hear from you, how is the world evolving, and how is India faring in terms of world when you compare the hyperscalers adoption and all? Where are we? You have to switch it on. Yes.
Yeah. Is this audible? Yeah, I think so. So that's a very interesting question. Kind of controversial as well a little bit in terms of trying to compare India with the rest of the world. But I think predominantly the hyperscalers are all outside of India as such, the owners of those hyperscalers that we see. And we always see that it's the Amazons or the Microsofts and the Googles who are the ones where this is really concentrated. You also kind of hear that there are other hyperscalers like IBMs or Oracle, or even at times I've heard Apple, which is it's an interesting phenomenon. You really don't know what it means, but it's good to explore further. But I think the first three, they are the ones who take the majority of the shares. And if you look at it, if you kind of spread it across the world, US, obviously the penetration of hyperscalers or moving things into the hyperscalers like these three ones, they are the ones who are the ones who are moving very much forward. AWS, obviously, they are the leading ones. Azure, which was way back just a few years, catching up a lot because you see AWS in the 40%, the Azure's now coming into the 20% of the market share, and then Google still in less than a 10%-ish kind of a role. Obviously, that's going to change. But all these hyperscalers in the US, if you look at it, that's where the market is predominantly moving. If I just, pan towards the right and go directly into Australia, AWS predominantly is what the world in Australia looks like. Majority of that is the financial institutions who are going more and more into the cloud. They're leading and paving the path for the rest of these sectors. If you look at it from the industry sectors, that's how that's moving in that direction. Along with that, the startup ecosystem in Australia is very, very agile. They're moving in that direction, and obviously all these startups, they want to start their business in the cloud itself because it's much more easier, faster, cost-effective, all of those things. We all know that. So that's how the context is going on from an Australia perspective. The European market is a little bit mixed and balanced. You still see a lot of these things, and it's kind of related to the regulations also, where the regulations kind of are allowing certain things to happen, but it's still not fully there because you have the likes of GDPR who are still saying this is how things need to be done, this is how you need to process, this is how you need to work with the data that is there, that's moving onto the cloud. So they are still moving there, and we being an European organization, mainly the German organization, there is a lot of openness that's coming up where you see that you're allowed to go into the cloud for different industry sectors. Now then you come back into India. India again is a mixed bag, and we've been hearing a lot of things, and it was really great to hear from you. I did not know a lot of things which you are doing, so it's really very, very inspiring, I would say. So thanks for all the work that you and your teams are doing. This is exactly where India and the scale of India, which really helps for everything that we do, right? We want to do anything, our scale itself just takes it into volumes, translating into higher revenues, and that's going to continue. We can't help. So the population is an advantage and disadvantage in different areas. But that's where the Indian ecosystem is really moving up. So a lot of things are going into the cloud. It's no more a board topic that should we go. It is how we go and how do we really put the right strategy so that it's not like you just do a lift and shift and done. And then I think one of the speakers was saying that you again have the CFO coming back and saying that, okay, now still give me the advantage of it.
Correct.
And then you have the Indian startup ecosystem again, which is like really, really very fast. And we've seen a lot of unicorns coming in who are moving in that direction. And I'm sure a lot of us are part of these different startup ecosystems in multiple capacities. And that's another very exciting area where they're moving more and more into the hyperscalers. They are moving very fast. Obviously, with the volumes that you see, they need to scale very fast.
Sure.
I think that really helps. So that's where I can see a little bit of.
Sorry to interrupt, Pushkar. Before I let you go, one question, if you can answer in probably one sentence. How is this the compliance and regulation with regards to insurance across the globe? How is it? One sentence quickly.
One sentence for regulations is always a very tough one.
Compare in your rate or scale Europe, US, Asia, and Australia. Probably scale on 1 to 5. 1 being least regulated, 5 being most regulated.
I think that's again not the right answer, and I'll take a cue from the 8.5 out of 10 example that was given. It's never good to answer in that manner. But I think if I have to say from an India context specifically right now, and then I'll talk about the others, the India context is that the regulations are a little bit, like if you look at even the IT Act of India is like 2 decades back, we still don't have the data privacy laws, which are still being debated, right? So we are way back on that, but the technology adoption is way ahead than many other European organizations because they are kind of restricted because of the GDPR rules which are there. If you look at it specifically from an insurance sector, again, all the regulators like the BaFin regulator, which you have in Germany, if you've got the IRDA regulations that you have in India, you've got the APRA regulations in Australia. They are varied in different shapes and forms in terms of what you can do, what you cannot do. So it's a little bit difficult to just give a particular scale to saying that, and how flexible they are. But I think everyone is evolving.
You're
Technology
diplomatically
moves
too
forward.
correct. You're playing it too safe, actually.
Sridhar,
But anyway,
I'd like to add a couple of things.
yeah,
to
please,
what Pushkar said.
feel free.
And maybe give you a context why the adoption of cloud and also the compliances are like the US is first. I know this because I was sitting in Amazon being hired first person in India in IT, went through various rounds of induction and trainings and all. And this is where we were told about this. Do you know how AWS was spun up?
How?
There were few warehouses which were built in a couple of states. And ultimately, Amazon decided that we would vacate those warehouses.
Vacate?
Yeah. And those were bought lands built from scratch. And now the data center which was built in had a capacity to put almost 50 racks. And at that time, WMS, which is warehouse management system, had to be
within the warehouse.
Within the Vincity, has to be close by. There was a space of 10 racks available. And there was a warehouse which was getting built next to it for another company. Amazon AWS actually started as a co-location partner.
I see.
And then over a period of time, when Amazon started realizing they had the extra rack space available across all warehouses which were in every state, they ended up extending that services because the ISPs were very strong. Everything was connected. They could outsource and give it to them. Then one of the services leader in the company said, yeah, we are getting a huge revenue by co-location. Why can't we convert it into actual business itself?
Sure.
This is how it started in US and it became prominent and other countries started adopting it. And a context to why Pushkar is saying India is far ahead in terms of adoption on the technology. We should realize Indian IT services companies or even the captive of every other big entity is sitting in India. India is actually servicing across globe. And that's the reason our adoptions are very, very high. Even if our compliances, laws don't enforce it, but we have been made sure that our CISOs are so strict, they would enforce every regulation to India. And because we are serving across globe, we have an enforcement to use GDPR, even if we are not in Europe.
Yeah.
We have an enforcement to use US data protection law, even if we are not in US.
Yeah.
So
we are exposed to everything. Yeah,
literally.
that's true. Okay, all right. Thanks for your input. So moving on, I think the threat landscape is evolving too fast, and it's always going to be there. I mean, it's like it's always there where you need to be. People normally say that you are probably good till the time you're not caught red-handed. So moving on to Shekhar, who represents 𝗕𝗲𝗏 Bank. A question, or maybe a controversial question, but I just wanted to know: is RBI ahead of the curve in terms of how they are putting the mandates for the banks to evolve their infrastructure? Where are we?
Definitely.
They are ahead of the curve?
Yes. Earlier, what they used to do is they will send you a letter whether you complied or not. Now it is not the question. They have a separate IT wing, Rabbit, they are putting a subsidy. They are coming into the data center, sitting with the OS administrators, database administrators, network administrators.
Wow.
They are asking to log into the system and they are verifying the systems, whether this bank is complied with the regulations, all these configurations are correct or not. All those things, each and every line by line, they are verifying.
So makes life easy for IT heads to ask for extra budgets, right? Because the RBI is sitting pretty much in the data center.
Yes.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Now, probably the next question for you, Shekhar. I mean, the new evolved banking systems are pretty much around us, right? They are digital first now. What kind of pressure do you, as a banking organization, feel, assuming that you are like you are not digital first and you are catching up with the digital first banks? What kind of pressure gets mounted on you, as a CTO or CIO?
Today, digital first is not a choice. You have to be compulsorily there. Either it is a new private sector bank, old private sector bank, anybody. Otherwise, you will not be in the business. In the morning session, when we are discussing, earlier we used to spend days together to open an account.
Right.
Okay, you have to visit the branch, KYC documents you submitted, manual mistakes will be there. Today, with the few clicks, you are able to open the account. So digital first is a mandatory thing. As far as customer is concerned, within few clicks he is opening. But the persons who are sitting in the data center, no. Earlier, 20 years back, when I entered the data center, morning 10 to 2 is the branch business hours. At that time, if your servers are running fine, okay. By 2 o'clock, if it is down, okay, it is lunch time. Let us go to lunch. Come back, you start the server.
That's 20 years plus experience in data center. He's seen the evolution actually. We have all gone through that, guys. Very nice actually.
Today, even by midnight, 12 o'clock or early morning 3 o'clock, if there is a 1 minute downtime, immediately we will get call from the NPCI or RBI.
Right.
Why there is a server down? Because your UPI transactions are growing like anything.
Right.
So you should have a strong mechanism for monitoring the systems. You should build proper redundancy, DR, business continuity, everything you have to do it. Then only you can run the show.
Sure, I can understand the pain here. So fair enough, but that ensures the job security for IT professionals like us. We can't be complaining about it. Moving on to Anil, the last one. I know I'm sitting between, when all of us are sitting in between you and your lunch. So Anil, question for you. The data regulation, the localization rule or law which is going to come, it's being under discussion for the last 2 years or so. Does it bring happiness to you as a business head?
Now there are two ways to look at it. One is, of course, there will be an immediate offtake of the business.
Right.
Offtake in the sense we have been seeing this in the last maybe 1 year. At least 37 multinational banks who are less than 5 branches. 13 of them have rolled out core banking in India.
Right.
3 of them, plus 3 of them have sold off their banking in India. Now, when you look at it from a long-term perspective, data localization is against the South principle of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Sorry, come again?
I mean, the world is one,
Ah.
and therefore you will end up with losses because there will be the other side which will also curb, right? But that will happen in a long term. In a short term offtake, because of this posturing, you would have a rapid increase in consumption. People like us, data centers, telco providers, network providers, more than happy to welcome it. So if I take a 2 or 3 year plan, yeah, we benefit. But when you look at it from a 10 to 20 year plan, because we do not have the resiliency, I mean, we are dependent on technology imports. We are dependent on, even for scientific research imports, right? We do not still have the resiliency, or this is not the right fulcrum, and therefore you may see a dip round about the 10th odd year when other people take an equal position.
Sure. Before I let you go, I have a question where, now that, Pushkar was saying, we understand that the market share is pretty much restricted around the top 3-4 players. What do you do? How do you sell to penetrate into this market, which is controlled by the heavyweights? What do you do?
It's very simple. See, either you can go by an individual name or you can go by a group name. So if Reliance, let's take our example, sorry. So if Reliance is a very good name and a very big brand, by default you go there. But then there is also a local seller out there whose shop you frequent. So when you view it from a market perspective, there is enough business for all.
Enough for everyone to survive.
The way we have adopted, the way Rajesh Dangiji has adopted, all of us call it as community cloud. For example, you would be surprised that as 𝗕𝗱𝗏𝗏 controllers, we are the largest HANA enterprise cloud provider across the world.
Wow.
We have more than 22 petabyte of just HANA RAM. Leave aside the data. We never advertise. We come it as a very, very specialist. So when you start searching for that HANA expertise, then you land to us. Right? For example, they themselves and even 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏, they have devised the ways of virtual desktop working with GPUs and all,
Right.
which is the fad now. That isn't available even to me. I can't roll it out as a public service. But then for that specialization, you land with it. Right? So the way to survive a market is you need to have specialization. Right? Yeah, our wallet share is less, but then that's our look.
But I must tell you that Rajesh is responsible for NextGen not focusing on the data center business only. He's created a vertical which is more pushed by his boss now.
He has gone for edge, sir. It is
Yeah, I know.
30,000 edge.
Yeah. It's contradictory, but yeah, feel free, Rajesh.
The choice is that if I go to McDonald's, there are very specific menu items, and I don't have anything. But with Darshini, you can tell him saying, "I want little kara, little sweet,
Filter coffee.
all that," and this is made to you order, right? That's what we are all kind of surviving, and I think we are growing in that space.
Sure. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was pleasure interacting with you. I must tell you, I was excited to talk to you all. The excitement was pretty much there in my voice because I wanted to know the inside story about each one of you, except for Pushkar, who was playing safe, but everyone literally brought out things which I really wanted to, and I hope you guys had a great session. If there are any question for any one of these panel members, let me know, and we can drop this call. Okay, lunchtime is there.
Great.
No one's
Thank you so much. Please give them a huge round of applause.